Well, very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the webinar, which is Optimized Solar Solutions 2021. With me, I have we have a couple of panelists, starting it from the Longi. We have Mr. Ran, Mr. Kevinson, Mr. Ahmed. We have Mr. Lucas, Alvin, and Ethan from Sungrow. Then we have Mr. Doshi, Mr. Suresh, and Mr. Bajaj from Apar cables. This webinar is dedicated to the subjects which are newly coming up for a solar industry for 2021. We have been witnessing from the last couple of months change in the PV module, wafer size, and thereby the watt peak per PV module, increasing it from 370, 385, 390 in the mid of 2020 to 500 plus for 2021. This will definitely bring in the new dimension to the entire design and how to optimize it. That's why the Longi, the largest company as of now in the world for a PV manufacturing, is there with us. They're technical expert from South Africa, and the overseas sales director from China, Mr. Ryan, are joining, and Mr. Ahmed he's joining us from actually Jordan. Then we have Sungrow, again a very well-known name in a solar industry, the largest PV inverter manufacturer, and the largest company who has shipped so far more than 100 gigawatt of inverters in the last 1 or 2 decades. We also have Apar cables from India, almost a billion dollar group from India. They are engaged in many things, but recently in the last decade or so, they were very actively engaged in DC solar cables. Very well-known certified products, working towards how to ease up the entire ease up the entire process of supplying and making the products available at the shortest possible time, and of course at the best prices, because in cables which has the 80%, 75 to 80% as a copper, and it has been driven by the LME, so it's not easy to manage and maintain these things at a larger scale. So apart from this, Power and Sun, I think in this region most of the people know us as well. We are a distribution company working towards making the products available in the shortest possible time and at the best prices. We try to work for making the project throughput time as short as possible, so that an EPC or installer can produce, can deliver as many projects with the given resources as possible. The session is going to be for 90 minutes. We have 18 to 20 minutes of each presenters. Then we have a senior management and actually CEOs and directors joining up from Longi, Sungrow, and Apar. We will have a panel discussions with them. How do they see 2021, and what is in their arsenal which they are going to deliver it to the market, how they are going to support all of us. Possibly last couple of minutes we will left it for internal question answer sessions between us. You can write questions as the presentations takes place in a chat section. There's a question sections must be appearing on your screen. You can mention it there. We might also would like to take a couple of live questions at the end of the session, and there is a provision of raising the hands. You can raise up the hands, we can provide the mic, and then the entire live discussions can take place. Please use this opportunity of 65 or maybe a 90 minutes complete session, full of knowledge, information, and the latest news on a PV inverter and on the cable industry. I can only say that all the presenters and panelists, they are actually veterans in this field and possess a lot of experience. So it's up to us to draw the best from them. With this, I would like to introduce Mr. Kevin Robinson. From last 12 years in the solar industry, based in South Africa. I had worked with couple of very prominent and the largest PV manufacturing company. Mr. Kevin, all to you now.
Sorry, it's on mute. I was just yeah, so I was just saying thanks very much for the introduction. And as you mentioned, sitting in South Africa, but it's always a privilege and honor to be able to be invited to share information, in other markets. So recently joined Longi, been with Longi for about 2.5 months now. So very pleased to also be able to support Ahmed in Jordan where I can. So let me jump into the presentation. What I want to talk about is about the optimized solar solutions for the industry. And I think the reason why it's so important is to really understand what the differences is, because it's been actually quite confusing over the past few years. There have been quite a lot of innovations. So let's have a look at some of the factors and why it has been confusing and where the market is kind of going. So historically, maybe going back about three years ago, it was pretty simple choice. You had a polycrystalline solar panel of 72 cells, maybe around about 330 watts, and that's pretty much what you would use for your solar installation. But increasingly, not really relevant for rooftop, but increasingly bifacial has become more prominent in ground mount stations. And then, especially if you're going that way, what kind of bill of materials are you looking at? Are you looking at a glass construction? You're looking at glass backsheet construction. So that's on the module side, but I think where most of the innovation is coming is around the cell technology. So as I mentioned, you used to be polycrystalline, maybe 330 watts, but now you have quite a significant choice. So the first one is on the cell size. So what's happened over the past few years is that cell size has started to increase, and now you probably have about 3 or 4 different choices when it comes to the cell technology. So M6, M10, M12, and then once you've got the cell size, what are you using a module with a full size solar cell? Are you using a half cell module? Some of the bigger wafers are now even using a third cut, solar cell. Some people are now moving into N-type technology, but P-type silicon cells, mono PERC is probably about 95% of the market, but you still, within the P-type technology, now you have a choice of, are you using gallium doping, are you using boron doping? And gallium doping technology that Longi uses, and that has a number of benefits, especially when it comes to LID, light and elevated temperature induced degradation, and also things like warranties. So I think let's just take a step backwards and talk quickly about Longi. I think it's important just to share some updates. So recently in the news, you would have seen that Longi is in the beginning of December surpassed 20 gigawatts of module shipments this year. So that is a huge milestone for us. Shipped more than 10 gigawatts of bifacial modules, And we've got roughly about 40% of market share of the monocrystalline silicon wafer market. So Longi not only produces solar modules, but they're in the entire value chain. Another fact that's also quite important is that Longi is investing really, really heavily into research and development. So last year's turnover, out of that, almost 250 million invested in research and development. So about 5% of our revenue is invested in research and development. What did industry say about us? So PV Tech, the only AAA rated module manufacturer under the PV Tech criteria. When it comes to Bloomberg, #1 in terms of their categorization or the production capacity, but also ultimate Z scores, and then some other industry players. So Nifty 50 out of China, as a report from Goldman Sachs, top 500 from Fortune magazine, world's largest public listed companies according to Forbes, and MIT, the 50 smart companies. So that's quite important for us as well. So when we talk about bankability, there's a few different metrics that you use, and the first one that has probably been the longest used is the ultimate Z score, and this is a metric to measure the financial health of companies. There's a few things that they look at. They look at working capital, total assets, and this measures liquidity, retained earnings to measure profitability, earnings before interest and tax to measure operation efficiency, and then market value of your equities to look at the market dimension, and then finally sales. So that's sort of a measure of the turnover as well. So I think this is quite an important metric. Next thing that we also look at, so I mentioned the tier 1 or Bloomberg, so that you can see as of currently production capacity of 32 gigawatts. And finally, the PV Tech bankability. There you see Longi as the sort of the largest rated or the AAA rated company, so the most bankable company. And what PV Tech says about the AAA rating is that PV module suppliers with this rating label are likely to be setting benchmarks for all other PV module suppliers. And I think this is quite true when you look at the innovation that we've seen over the last few years. So some other things that I think it's also important to understand the industry players that we work with. So very important for us is the industrial partners that we work with. Sungrow obviously is a key partner for us in terms of how the modules integrate with the PV solutions and understanding that environment, but also looking at industrial partners that supply materials like DuPont for the backsheet, and then 3M for encapsulation materials. Also just quickly some things there about industry, and also looking at some of the research and development companies that we work with. So what's important for us also is to understand how the modules perform in the market. So we participate in studies throughout the world, looking at different environments. So from hot desert conditions like Saudi Arabia, some of the conditions in China where you have hot, dry conditions, humid conditions, also incredibly cold, and then across to more temperate conditions that you would see in the USA. What we're looking there is to understand the degradation that we have in the modules. So there you can see over the past 3 years, past four years, so on average looking at about less than 0.38% degradation. So that's quite important, especially when it comes to looking at things like your levelized cost of electricity. Obviously, the lower your degradation of the modules is, the better your system is going to perform, and the more energy you're going to have over the lifetime of your module. So it's a very important consideration when you're looking at the levelized cost of electricity, is to understand how the modules are performing. So that's Longi, and jumping back now into this technology and how it has impacted the industry. We'll have a look quickly at how the cell technology or evolution has happened, and then I'll look at a case study because we get quite a lot of feedback from our customers, and I was really trying to understand how that actually impacts a real project scenario. So I'll have a look at that as well. So as I mentioned, it was, you know, 4 years ago, it was quite an easy choice about which module to use. The industry started to use, probably about 2017, started to use to larger modules, larger wafer sizes, but in the same form factor. And then over the last, really the 2 years, this is where most of the changes have come with the increase in wafer sizes. Really now moving into the area where effectively you have a choice between the M10 wafer, the M6 wafer, and then some other industry players are starting to offer an M12. And what I wanted to understand with this presentation is how does that really impact projects. Let me just go back. So in terms of our product with those two cell ranges, our main production is now moved into the HIMO 4. Then, so that's typically speaking in terms of the 72 cells, your 450 watt module. And then the HIMO 5, we offer it in 66 and 72 cell. So that production is around about 495 for the 66 cell, and then around about 535, 540 for the 72 cells. So as I mentioned, we get feedback from our customers, and I really wanted to try and understand how that would affect a real project. So last night I started to do some simulations just to see where this goes. I just did a quick search on Google, looking at where can we find rooftops. So eventually I just went and had a look in JLT, and I found a roof there. So for this particular simulation, what I did is I looked at this factory roof. It's not quite a perfect orientation, so I didn't want to look at a situation where you have an ideal case, but really something that's probably more realistic that a project developer or EPC would look at installing on. So this particular roof, 2 different orientations. Guessing the slope, it was hard to tell from the aerial picture, but guessing round about 5-degree pitch. Obviously, there's a fixed space constraints because of the roof. Observing your thermal gaps and walkways for operation and maintenance, and then looking at making sure that you've got gaps on the edges to be able to operate safely. So what I did is I used Heloscope, set up the parameters for within Heloscope, and used those parameters. And the reason why I used Heloscope is Heloscope is a good tool for scoping, although it's not really an engineering tool. It's good for scoping, good for salespeople to really get an understanding about what would be available on a given roof space. And then after your engineering services, probably go into something like PV systems, start to optimize your solar solution. So I had a sort of something in my mind, and I was quite interested to be proven right within the simulation. So let me share the results. So obviously for this particular simulation, I looked at 2 different inverters. I looked at Sungrow, I was quite interested in the new 110 kilowatt inverter, but I did also look at the 50 kilowatt inverter. And the reason why I think this inverter is particularly interested is that it does, in terms of your DC to AC ratios, it does allow you to oversize up to 1.5. That would obviously have some impact on the actual system. But I really wanted to understand. So actually doing a comparison between the 50 and the 110 kilowatt inverter, got quite a probably about 5% increase in performance from the solar system. Using the 110 kilowatt, I managed to get higher oversize ratios with this particular inverter. So let's have a look at the summary of the results here. So what I did is, sorry, I actually didn't label it properly, but in the first instance there, we have the HIMO 4, so that's a 450 watt module. With this particular roof, I managed to achieve 1.12 megawatts DC power with this particular inverter, 1.28 AC to DC ratio, 8 inverters at 880 kilowatts, and what I found quite interesting is the 450 kilowatt gives us the best specific yield, and best performance ratio, and then about 1.8 gigawatts of energy to the grid. The next option was to look at the HIMO 5, but in this instant I looked at the 66 cell half cell module. The power of this particular module is 495 watts. Naturally, we did get, it's a roughly the same form factor and did get slightly higher power, obviously, slightly higher AC to DC ratios as well. Still using 8 inverters, but if you look at the specific yield, it is slightly down compared to the HIMO 4, but still relatively good performance. And then obviously with the higher amount of DC power on the roof, we get slightly better performance in terms of energy to the grid. The next thing that I looked at was the HIMO 5, the 70 cell half cell module. Power of this module is 535 watt peak. Out of that, getting 1.16, so about 200 kilowatts more than the 450 watt. Still 1.3 in terms of DC to AC ratios. But what was quite interesting in this particular instance is that if you compare to the other two modules, the specific yield is down by quite a bit in comparison. So I found that quite interesting. Finally, what I looked at is I looked at a competitor's module, somebody who's using a 210 millimeter solar cell. This particular module is 550 watts. But what is quite interesting about this particular module is just because of its physical size and the limitations on the roof, the DC power is actually quite reduced. So only able to fit 990 kilowatts with this particular high power module. But interesting, even though the power is reduced, one less inverter in this case, but we still get reasonably good performance or the specific yield and performance ratios out of this. But in terms of a rooftop situation, not really able to optimize it any further. So for a customer using this kind of installation, probably not that interesting in terms of energy to the grid. Okay, so just some other things. If we look at these two, I think for this particular rooftop, probably the most interesting is the HIMO 4, 450 watt module, and the HIMO 5, the 495 watt module. And for me, the reason why this is that if you start looking at the bigger modules, suddenly the size is not that easy to handle on a rooftop. The manipulation becomes really, really difficult. But actually what was also quite interesting in this case is if you compare the 530 watt module compared to the 495 watt module, is that the DC cabling was actually longer with the high power module. So I found that actually really, really interesting. And I think it's mainly just because of the area occupied is just slightly bigger. And then the string configuration was slightly different. So in summary, if you're looking at commercial rooftop projects, I think the two modules that offer the most value for customers in the region are going to be the HIMO 4 modules, the 450 watt module, and interesting enough, that actually ties in with what South African customers are telling us. And something for future considerations is maybe the HIMO 5, the 66 cell with 495 watts. So, Mr. Verma, I think that concludes what I have to present at the moment, and back to you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for the nice presentation. Very detailed and precise. We have a couple of questions, but I will reserve them for the last. I would request now. I would request now Mr. Lucas Wu to come and start his presentation. Mr. Lucas is there with the Sungrow for a couple of years. He is a design and technical expert there. Has completed his engineering from UK. Over to Mr. Lucas now. Lucas, you need to switch on your mic. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for Mr. Verma's welcome, and thanks for the presentation from Mr. Kevin. And we see that the panel has been make a great progress in recent years. So as the largest inverter manufacturer in China, and we also made many progress in the inverter in recent years. So in 2021, we have a new update for our inverter, and also in order to compatible with the new model in the nearly future. So here I will show that how we can what's the solution for Sungrow in 2020. And for now, can you see my screen? No? Okay. Maybe this. Yeah, you can see? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so here is the solution for Sungrow in 2021, and you'll see that we have updated our CX series in V112 new version. So as you know, the old one we called it V11, and this new version is V12. And you see we have added two main functions. One is the SPD type 1+2, and another one is the AFCI function. So here I will show you the detail what the two function it is. So the first, as we all know that the CNI project usually they will install the rooftop or in the open ground, and it is very vulnerable to get the lighting, and in case this lighting directly to the inverter. So for this kind of inverter, the lighting protection is quite important. And also you know that the lighting will cause a big damage to our plant, even cause a big fire. So to update the lighting protection, the V112 version of our CX series, we now updated to type 1+2 SPD in the DC side. So as you can see from this table that the type 1 plus 2 SPD is nearly, the ability is nearly twice than the type 2 SPD. So what's the most important one is that the type 1 plus 2 SPD, they have ability to even resist the direct lighting. So you see in this parameter, it means that the inverter, it can even resist the direct lighting, which up to 2.5 kilo amps. So this is the update for the SPD protection, which is mainly for the lighting in the DC side. And so here is the SPD protection, and we have an update. You see it 1 plus 2, the ability is twice, and even have the ability to resist the direct lighting. So the second one is the AFCI. We called it. You know that in the recent years, the panel it have getting more and more, and the cable is becoming longer and longer. So in this case, some plant it maybe have a bad connection of the DC cable, or maybe when the cable is in the humidity connection, and it will cause a little arc. So this arc, you can see if you have no AFCI function, it may be continuously generate this kind of arc, and it will maybe burn the panel or even burn the whole plant. But if you have the AFCI, it can cut off this kind of arc and protection your plant in safe and sound. So in case this kind of arc will generate in DC side, we are now update our CX series with this AFCI function. So the AFCI function for now, I can say that for Sungrow, the AFCI function, we are the most fast and efficient one. Although manufacturer give you a lot of concept or says a lot of things, but still I think in Sungrow, since we are almost always focused on the technology. So here you can see we are the most fastest one that can cut the arc fault in within 300 milliseconds, so which is quite fast. And we also have a self-learning function. Every time the arc is generated and the arc wave is will be recorded by our inverter, and it will cause the even faster cut off seconds in the near future. So this inverter, it can cut off the arc in very quick time, and it also can record every kind of this kind of data, and in the future it can cut the arc more and more accurate and more faster. And in 2021, we will also update the AFCI function with the string level detection. So you know that here, if you have an arc, the inverter will cut off the arc, but you don't know where is the arc. So maybe it's hard for you to locate the arc fault. So with this function in the near future, you will have the ability to know where exactly the arc is. Just like the picture shows, you will know where is the arc, and you can quickly find the problem and slow the problem to make your inverter come back to work. So this is the AFCI function. And also, except the function itself, we also give you a very fast setting through our application. So you see here, we give you 3 options for you to set this AFCI function. So the first one, you can use it, you can see here is the self-test. Every time you use the function, you can use it to check if the function work properly or not. So you can see if you click here, and the system will tell you the AFCI function is working properly. And also some customers, they may also want to test this AFCI function by themselves, or they have many other ideas to change the AFCI function. So here we give you a choice. You can enable or disable the function. Then you can see if you can try to test the function within or without the AFCI function to see if the function working in a good mode. And also, when the arc is generated, and the system will give you alarm in the main page. So when every time you open the application in the main page, if there are arc problem generated, it will generate an arc in the main page. Then you will know what happened, and the inverter will cut it off, but it will restart it after 5 minutes. But if the arc is still generated, and the inverter will cut it again. So it will repeat 5 times until the 6th time. The inverter will no longer restart itself. then at that time you need to check the fault, or you maybe need to check the panel by yourself to make sure the panel has no problem, and then you can clear the alarm here manually so that you can make the inverter come back again. So here you can see we have 3 options for you to easily setting in the application just by your cell phone. It's quite simple, and you can clear the alarm by yourself until you clean the radio fault. So we give you a 100% safety guarantee with this kind of function. And as we just talking that we know that the panel in recent years is getting more and more larger, and even now up to 550 or even 600. So we need to catch up the step of the panel manufacturer. So for Sungrow in 2021, and we will give you another solution which is called the CX-P2 series. So here is a new inverter in the 2021. As you can see, this inverter is ready for the next generation 550 watt module. So you know that no matter the 182 or 210, this kind of module, the current they may be up to 14 or even higher. Sorry, I hear the repeated voice of some others computer. Can you disable? Yeah, can you disable the mic? Maybe I can. Yeah, okay, this here no problem. So just like I said, no matter the panel, they are going to 550 or 600. As you know, the current they are going to goes up. So maybe the current you see here, the other some of the manufacturer, the panel 550, the current they may up to 14 amps. So for now, our CX series, the input current is 13. So in case we can use this kind of big panel in the future, so we will update the current from 13 to 15. So this is our next generation plan. And also, we will give you more choice of the power rate. So you see here, we will give you more new 75, the 100 or 125. So we will have 3 new modules for the P2 series. And also, you know that the rooftop, the panel is getting higher, getting more wide. So we will, in case that some rooftop they have the less ability to handle the big heavy load of the inverter or the panel, so we will make our inverter more smaller and more lighter than before. So in the future, you will see we will have many updates for our new series inverter. We will update the current, we will give you a new module, and we will make it smaller and even lighter. And also, we know that in recent years, there are many old inverters which with the big DC terminal, they are accept the warranty. So this kind of inverter, our customer, they may want to replace this kind of inverter with our new inverter. But unfortunately, we all know that the new inverter, they all with the MC4 terminal, but the old one, they are use the big DC terminal. So how we can use this new inverter to replace this kind of old inverter? So we are giving you a temporary solution for now. So you see we are generated a new reverse combiner box. So with this kind of combiner box, you can connect the big DC terminal to our combiner box, and then you can connect with the MC4 terminal with our new inverter. So here is our solution for the big DC terminal of the old inverter. And you can see here is the picture that what it looks like. So here is the big DC terminal input. The big DC terminal you can connect through here, and it will goes out here by the MC4 terminal. So then you can connect with our new inverter. And you know that the old inverter, some of they are with 1 pair MPPT, there are some of the 2 pair MPPT. So to give you a flexible use, we will have this 2 choice for you. So 1 pair or 2 pair, you can both use this big box to connect with the old big DC terminal. And we design especially for our CX series. So you can see that here we have 9 pair of MPPT output. So, but it's also suitable for our other CX series, such like 33, 40, or 50. They all can use with this reverse combiner box. So how many terminal you will use, and you can connect how many. So all the CX series you can use with the reverse combiner box here. And here is the that I think I don't need to say so much. One thing I need to enhance is that we will done the certification for the reverse combiner books. So in case some area they may have the requirement of the certification, so please don't worry. We also have the certification for our combiner books. So here is the solution. I think I can call it a temporary solution for the older revamping market with the older big DC terminal inverter. And in the near future, okay, one thing I need to add is that as the inverter, they are for the new inverter, they are working in the, you know, the parallel MPPT module. So, sorry, the independent, because we have 9 MPPT. For 50, they have 5 MPP, 4 MPP, or 3 MPP. They all working independent. So the assortment is different compared with the older inverter. So to compatible with the older inverter, because you only have 1 pair or 2 pair input stream, so you cannot still use the new assortment, the independent assortment. So you will need to change the working mode of the inverter. And through our application, you can see here just a quick step. You can change the working mode to compatible with the older inverter. So this is quite simple for you to use, and to make sure the string, the big string, the old string, they can work in properly with our new inverter. And in case to solve this problem, I think maybe permanently, and Sungrow will also design a new generation revamping product, especially for this kind of market. So as you see, we in the future, I think maybe in the next year, Q4, in the end of next year, and we will launch our totally new product, especially for this kind of revamping market. So the module, they will be focused on the 16 and 18. So you know, we will firstly focus on the revamping of ourselves in inverter. So you know, we have the 6 KTL and 80 KTL. So we have these 2 old module, and our customer, if they use this kind of old module and they want to change the product also with Sungrow, so in the future they will have this kind of totally new generation revamping product. So they can directly change it, and without any other, I think maybe without any other operation. They don't need to change the cable. They don't need to thinking about the space or something else, because our product, they will perfectly fit for ourselves. So there we have 2 module, 16 and 18. And also, as we know that the older inverters, they will have different voltage, maybe even higher with 480 or 540. So in the future, our revamping product, they will self adaptation for this kind of different voltage, no matter 400 or 480 or 540. We all can use this new product to fit it. And also, although it's used to replace the old inverter, but the function, they are totally new. The function, they will inherit the latest CX series. So what the CX series have, our revamping product, they all will have, no matter the AFCI, the anti-PID, or the bigger input current, and our new revamping market product, they will also have this kind of function. So here is, I think, in the near future, they will more and more customers, they will thinking about this problem. So as Sungrow, we are thinking even further. So we see this will be a big problem maybe in the near future. So we will have this kind of totally new product for you to use in this kind of revamping market. And also from, I think maybe in these years, I hear more and more customers, they are require us that if we can connect the generator with the inverter. And actually in the before, the answer is no, because you know that if you connect the inverter with the generator, it may be when the load is not enough, the inverter they will maybe generate the reverse power to the generator. So any kind of this kind of reverse power, it will damage this kind of generator. So it's very dangerous to connect this together. So in before, it's the answer is no. So we cannot connect them together. But for now, we have working with some third-party controller manufacturer. So with this kind of controller, then you will have the ability to compatible this inverter together with the generator, because the inverter and the generator they will all controlled by the controller. The controller they can balance the power between the generator and the inverter, so there will have no reverse power goes to the generator, and also the controller can make sure every time the generator is working with the minimum fuel consumption. Because if you have no controller, the inverter or the generator they will not know how many load is now, and maybe the generator they always working with a big consumption of the fuel. But for now, with the help of the controller, the generator they will know when the PV power is enough or when the PV power is not enough, and they can adjust the generator power very smoothly and very automatically. So with this kind of controller, you will have the ability to connect them together. And no matter I have at least 3 typically application. So the first one, you can use the generator together with the inverter without grid, because some area the grid they may not stable or even without grid. So at this time you can use this kind of generator to simulation the grid condition. So then you can connect with the inverter to make the inverter working properly. So this is a first typical application is the pure off-grid mode, or with here you can use the generator to simulation the grid condition. And then the second one, maybe you have the grid or the grid is not so stable, and you introduce the generator also. So here you have 3 power supply, no matter the grid, no matter the generator, no matter the inverter. So you will have this kind of solution together, even if only you have the controller. So this is not a problem. And also you see that the controller, they are directly communicated with our inverter. So maybe some people will ask, if I have a multiple inverter, how I can control the power of the whole PV plant. So for now, you can also use the controller to connect with our monitoring device, which is the COM100E. So if you have this kind of application, and you can connect the controller with our monitoring device, then our monitoring device can control the whole PV plant. The multiple inverters they will control all by one the controller. So this is an application if you have multiple inverter and with a generator or even with a grid. So this is a 3 typical solutions. So one is for pure off-grid, and one is for grid and with the generator, with the inverter. And another, if you have a multiple inverter, you can connect with our monitoring device, then you will have this kind of solution. So for now, we give you a big choice, I think a big opportunity to finish your project in the area that they have without the grid, or the grid is not so stable, or the place with the fuel is very cheap, and they want to introduce the generator into the system. So for now, you will have this kind of solution. And for the controller, for now, we have only compatible with the DEF. I think it's already a very famous controller company in the world, which is a European company. And you see that this is called ASC-4, which we can compatible with this kind of controller. So with this kind of inverter, you will reliable this 3 application. And also there are many customers already use this kind of application working very properly. But some of them are complain that the DEF is quite expensive. And for Sungrow, it's no problem, because we are open to cooperate with any other manufacturer if they can make this system working properly. So we also consider these two new brand. One is called the Watchman, one is called the ComApp. So these two controller we will also consider. Not only consider, we already try to test it, and if we finish the test, we will also introduce these two controller in our system. And also, as I said, the Sungrow is open for the idea that if you have more idea about the controller, so you can tell us. Maybe in the future we will give you more choice about this kind of generator. So just the conclusion that you can see in the first, we give you the solution for many industrial areas. They may need the higher SPD protection, and maybe in some class they will have the risk of the arc fault. So we will give you the new AFCI function. And just like the topic today, the panel, just like the Kevin just said, the Longi they use to simulation the DC AC ratio. More and more people they want to get more and more higher. So even up to 1.6 or 1.7. So for Sungrow, we have a new idea that we will design a big input current new series inverter in the future to fit this kind of big panel. So you can to make your DC AC ratio up to 1.6 or even 1.7 or even higher. And also we are open for you to use the Y connector. So with this kind of application, I believe that in the future you can make the DC AC ratio quite higher as you want. And the next one, I just told you about our thinking about the revamping market due to a lot of the older inverter with the big DC terminal. They are extended warranty, and you want to change it. So we here give you a temporary solution of the reverse combiner box. So if you have this kind of revamping market, you can use our for now the CX series with this kind of reverse combiner box to fit this revamping market. And the next to fix this problem, I think permanently, so we will just specially design a new inverter, especially for this kind of revamping market. So we will have this kind of new inverter for the big DC terminal. And the next is some area, more and more people, they want to introduce the generator into the PV system. So we here compatible with the third-party controller to make this a reliability. So you will have the ability to use the controller, to use the generator, to use the inverter together to realize your new idea. And we are opening for the idea that if you can give us more brand which is popular in the MENA, so we will have more choice in the future. So here is all the solution that Sungrow is ready for the 2020. And I think here I can give back the control to the Mr. Verma, and thank you for your listening.
Thanks, Lucas, for the nice detailed presentations. We have taken a note of your new offerings for 2021. We are running.
ओडी चेक कर लो, उसको भी कर दो, उसको भी कर देना ओडी.
There is some cross mics. Please mute.
Pressure है.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So we are running little. We are running little short of time, and I would like to invite Mr. Doshi. Though we have a lot of questions on Sungrow, we would like to keep it after the Apar's presentation. Mr. Doshi is Mr. Jignesh Doshi is in last 21 years in a cable industry. Let's have his presentation now, and let us try to utilize his experience and the knowledge from the industry. Mr. Jignesh Doshi, to you now.
Yeah, hi. Thank you everyone for having me on this elite panel. And I'll just share you my presentation once I get the rights to share. Mr. Verma, you need to give me the presentation rights to share my screen.
Yeah, you can share your screen, yes.
1 second. Yeah. Right, I hope it's clearly audible. So, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for giving me this time. So, I'll move on about Apar at a glance. So, basically, Apar is a billion-dollar company when we are having three big SBUs. The company is divided upon. One is in the specialty oils, where we are the largest Indian player in the transformer segment. And we have a lot of tie-ups with South African, Australia, and Turkey. And we also manufacture lubricants in part of that. Then we have the conductor division, in which we are one of the top 3 manufacturers in the world. And we manufacture aluminum alloy rods and ACSR triple AC up to 1200 kV. Of course, I am a part of the cable division where I'll talk about it. So we have a wide range of cables that we manufacture, right from elastomeric cables, and we are one of the pioneer positions in the solar and the windmill cable section. We also do fiber optic, specialty, umbilical, and other type of cables. And I'll talk about it more in the coming slides. So the cable business financial, just a small glance. Though we are a billion-dollar company, the cable business is nearly $220 million, out of which around 20% of that is coming out of the international business. And as you can see, the major business that we do is in the renewable sector. More than 26% of our business revenues come out of the cable business. Coming to the product range, you manufacture one of the largest range of cables. In electricals, we manufacture up to 3.3 up to 66 kV in fact. And we also do MVCC cables. We have a large range of cables in flexible house wires, instrumentation, as well as specialty FRLS cables. Then we have our elastomeric and E-beam cables, where of course solar is the biggest driving factor. Besides that, we do a lot of windmill cables, ship wiring, trailing welding cables, and a lot of other specialty cables which requires EPR silicon sheathings. In the telecom range, we have our optic fiber cables, and also and there are various categories to that: loose tube, uni tube, and we also do a lot of cables which are we can call them specialty cables or hybrid cables, where the power cables are clubbed with the communication cables. Apar has 2 manufacturing facilities in Gujarat, which is located at Umbagaon and Khatalwada in an area of around 250,000 square meters. And it's quite nearby to the Bombay port. It's nearly just 150 kilometers. So it becomes easier for us to export these cables to anywhere in the world. And of course, our factories are not only ISO 9000 and 14000, but we also have 45001 OSA certification. And our testing laboratory is also NABL accredited. So one of the features, like we mentioned, is the E-beam facility. This project we have set up, we are one of the only site in India which has E-beams from 1.5 to 3 MeV, which is million electrovolt, to cover the complete range of cables and the handling systems. And we in fact have a new 5 MeV facility which is under installation, which should be up and running in probably the next 1 or 2 months time. So besides of course, the E-beaming of the cables that we do, we also do for a lot of other products, which is your PTFE powders or the foam P sheets, packaging sheets, etc. So the advantage of using the technology of the electron beam is basically a gun or electron gun is housed in a vessel, where the electrons are accelerated in acceleration tube, and they are then through a scanning device magnetically it scans, and the cables pass through those beams to get the cross-linking done. The advantage of this against a conventional cross-linking extruder is a better quality of the polymer cross-linking, as well as it has a very superior thermal and mechanical properties as well. So we have NABL accreditation, like we said, and this is just a copy of the BSI, the OSAS, as well as the NABL accreditation. Coming to the solar cables, as you know, the solar cables are categorized, you can say, in around 5 main modules. One would be the PV to PV and PV to array junction box. These are the cables, who are mostly exposed to the sunlight throughout the day and night. So these are the DC solar cables, single core copper cables for the positive, negative, and they are insulated with these cross-linkable zero halogens. These cables, conform to the TUV, EN, and IEC specifications, and we also offer, the UV and ozone protection properties. Then you have the array junction box to main and main junction box to inverter DC cables. These are not generally exposed to the sunlight. They are routed to the PVC pipes, and these are laid underground. So generally they are the XLB type cables which are used. Then of course you have the inverter to transformer primary cables. Then we have the transformer secondary to RME switchyard and the RME to the switchyard cables. These are the armored cables which are used. They are either copper or aluminum, and of course these are PVC grade material since they are underground. All these cables are XLB insulated, manufactured mainly with the UV stabilizations. This is mainly the compound also which is used to sustain the direct, diffuse, or even indirect sunlight in case of the exposure at any stage of installation. Apar, we have an experience of nearly 30 years in the manufacturing of the elastomeric insulated cables. So these range of cables are backed by these technologies that we have. Like I talked about the E-beam radiation technology, and that is the same technology which we use for the cross-linking of the solar DC cables as well. We already have 2 facilities of 1.5 and up to 3 million electrovolts, and now we are establishing a new facility with 5. These cables, like we explained, these compounds have these zero halogen properties and ultraviolet and ozone resistance. So we offer not only just a 25 years of life, but in some countries, we also offer them with the nylon option, which is for the rodent resistance, and also an option of copper and copper aluminum, or even the 8000 series aluminum that we have. So the advantage of this E-beam crosslink wires and cables is, some of the properties, like we said, is the DC, the high electric dielectric strength. It is UV and ozone resistance, oil and chemical resistance, weather impact, abrasion, crack resistance, and mainly it offers a good flexibility and a long life cycle as well. And most of them are compatible to the popular connectors which are used, and this is also RoHS compliant. Coming to a range of this, these are just a few cables and the sizes that we can offer, right from 2.5 square mm to 300 square mm. We offer as per TUV 2007 and BACN 50618, as well as IEC 609230. And these solar cables, they are with GE wire braiding also we can offer if required in some critical applications. Even in figure 8, both positive and negative cables are joined together. The conductors can be flexible aluminum conductors or CCA. With the rising copper prices, there are different options that we go with. And the underground cables can be with either steel tape armoring, it could be a flat strip, or even round wire armor for the combiner box to the inverter. So these cables are generally, these E-beam cables are suitable to 120 degrees operating temperature, and they offer nearly 15% extra current rating as compared to our conventional cables. These are the certifications that we have for 62930 as well as for EN 50618. I would also like to take this opportunity about unique, the PV assembly and wiring harness that Apar is able to offer. Now, the advantage of using these solar harnesses is, generally for a contractor, along with the cables, you need a lot of other components for installation. It could be lugs, connectors, heat shrink sleeves, cable management systems, and there is a lot of follow-up required within each of those suppliers, which would obviously require a larger team and high purchase cost. And whether you will get all those things at the same time, which would affect the delivery schedule as well. So we have done an extensive study on these, and we have found that nearly 30% of the contractor's cost is spent in installing the string and these array cables, and also the time that is needed for that. This can actually be saved by using cable harnesses. So what Apar does is, we are able to offer these harnesses as well, not just the cables. Along with the cables, we are also able to offer the cable harnesses. So you can actually, the cable consumption is also saved when directly if a harness is used instead of direct cable installation. Even the consumption of cable is reduced by nearly 30%. And we have, generally 10% of the cable gets scrapped because of direct cable installation, which can actually be saved by using the cable harnesses. So rather than using a conventional wiring, the solar harnesses, if used, can actually result in a huge saving for the contractor, the EPCs, or even directly. So these cables, the TUV 4 to 16 square M cables which are used, we can offer a 2-in-1 out or branch harness or even the jumper harness. So the features, as we can see, they are TUV certified cables which are used, inline fuse of 25A, 1500 volt. And the test electrical features are the test voltage AC 6.5 kV, 50 Hz for 5 minutes, and DC is 15.6 for 5 minutes. So these are few of our customers whom we have supplied cables to in the renewable sectors. Most of them are, of course, the large companies globally, and they're doing a lot of project world over. So we are generally supplying to nearly all of them in India. And of course, we have Power and Sun as our partners in the Middle East, where we also keep stock of cables, and they can be procured by them. This is the exports that Apar does in more than 55 countries. We are exporting these products, and so you can be rest assured about the quality of the product availability is there. So thank you. I assume that we have very less time, so I try to concise the presentation as much as possible. So, and we'll be happy to answer any questions at a later stage. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Doshiji. Thanks for your presentation, and probably to the best of my understanding and knowledge, this seems to be the first presentation from a cable supplier in the Middle East. Though the cable contributes almost around 4 to 5% of overall, solar project cost, but it's a very less importance. I mean, the required or the due importance has not yet been given. Though if we manage this properly, I am sure the overall cost can be reduced at least by 1% in the cables itself. Either through harnessing or by reducing the losses and all those things.
Like you mentioned, this was the first time we were doing the presentation, so I didn't go much in the technical aspects. I thought talking about the company. So maybe in the future ones we can talk more about individually, in more detail about the technical aspects of the harnesses as well as the cables.
Very nice. I think we are running a little short of time, so I'll keep the questions at the last. Now I will take probably 3-4 minutes just to quickly explain what actually Power and Sun is and what we are doing. Just a very, I hope you have able to see my screen. We are, any solar project basically it can be defined and derived in a three dimensions. That is the time, cost, and quality. Quality and cost is mostly being handled by the manufacturers or the technology drivers. The time is an aspect of a solar project which is most of the time ignored, and I think this is one area where a required focus is must, so that we can actually start delivering the projects in half of its time. This is more of a material management and supply chain subject, where 70 to 80% of a cost and energy in any solar project is actually there only for the material. So if a solar project is there for 100, if we give that the unit, 75% or maybe 80% in many of the projects is the cost of material, and a similar amount of energy is spent in making the materials available to the site. So if the overall energy is spent on making or delivering a solar project, 70-75% is again in terms of making the product available to the site, and then its installations and commissioning and other things. Now, this is one area where we as a company, we thought we need to focus, start utilizing the best practices of supply chain, and start giving the challenge to the EPCs that if they can deliver the project, whatever they have, 1 megawatt, 2 megawatts, especially for a C&I sector and on the rooftop industries, which is mostly in this region, anything between 2 to 3 megawatt or 4 megawatts, or maybe actually lower than that, in half of its standard time. So keeping that as a focus, the entire company has been from last 5-6 years we have been working on this. We are a one-stop shop which supplies all the components which are used in a solar plant, inverters, modules, cables, connectors, combiner boxes, structures, monitoring systems. If we have to define ourselves in a single line, maybe you can call it as a demand aggregators. So basic work, what we do is we capture the market demand. Now we are also developing a software where we can capture this demand on a real-time basis. So after having captured the demand, we aggregate it, draw projections, draw forecasts, and place the orders to the manufacturers in advance for at least Q1 or Q2. So if you ask me, for a Q1 2021, all our orders for inverters, modules, cables, structures are actually being placed, and then we go to the industry and inform the availability. So that's how we use the supply chain to reduce the throughput time of a solar projects. We provide, apart from the components, we also provide engineering supervision support. From 2021, we are also going to be there in an O&M sector, 100% in dedicated team who will be looking at on the operations and maintenance of the solar plants in the region. Solar Simplified, as I said, that it's nothing but making the entire process very simplified, where instead of dealing it with many suppliers, deal it with the one. Prices are locked, availabilities are reduced to half. That's how the entire system works. Because of a time, I will not go much in detail, but you can visit our websites. Most of the details are available there. 360-degree solutions, off-grid, on-grid, hybrid, zero exports. You name the solar, our engineers are there to design a solution for it, and then thereby designing the thing, entire components and the solutions. In the last couple of years in the Middle East, because the solarization actually started a little late here, 2016 the policy of DIVA was given, and then the Oman and Saudi is yet to come. Jordan is one of the oldest country in the region where the penetration of solar is highest. So, but with this limitations, we have done around 450 megawatt of the components has been shipped. We got a footprints in more than 30-35 countries in this region, including Africa. As I said, that we either our job is not only to supply the components, we create a system out of it. We either design the BOQ for our customer, or we take his BOQ and integrate all the components and then supply. More than 7 years in this market and in this region. Best prices guaranteed, because the economies of scale, what I said, is, the benefit of this is actually passed it on to the client, and that's why many EPCs are considering as a one-point contact or a single source buying rather than rather than going for 10 or 12 different existing suppliers. So so far in this region, we are the largest in terms of the stock holding capacities, or in terms of the revenues, or in terms of the brands what we manage. With this, I think I will stop speaking about Power and Sun. Apart from this one aspect which we give it, most of the time to the society, is creating or bringing a platform for a neutral, technology and trends discussions. And this result, this webinar is a part of this result. We have been conducting these webinars in the last 6-7 months, almost 2 or 3 per month. And now we also have a solar academy whereby we train upcoming solar engineers, almost 15 to 20 engineers per month, with the support of the principal manufacturing company. With this, I think I'll go back to the panelists now. I'll request all the panelists to switch on their video. Yes. Hi, Alvin.
Hi, Mr. Verma.
Mr. Bajaj and Mr. Ryan. Let me also introduce Mr. Ryan, Bajaj, and Mr. Alvin. Mr. Bajaj is actually a veteran in a cable industry, more than, sir, correct me if I'm wrong, more than 30 years of experience. Let me switch on your mic. Can you switch on your mic, Mr. Bajaj? Yeah.
Yeah.
So please correct me, I think more than 30 years of experience?
Maybe more than 45.
More than 45 now. And as much as I know you, almost 12 hours working in a day?
I don't know.
So Mr. Bajaj from India, Mr. Ryan from Longi from China, Mr. Alvin is from Dubai. Mr. Alvin is a director for Sungrow. Mr. Ryan oversees director from Eastern Longi. Mr. Bajaj, CEO of Apar. First question to Mr. Ryan. Mr. Ryan, Longi, as we know, has been a little late entrant in actually Middle East, and as I remember correctly, in 2019, your capacity was approximately around 9 gigawatt, and when we get a news now in 2020, it has jumped to 32 gigawatt. So can you just elaborate that 4 times increase in a year? I mean, this is not very normal situation. We don't have your voice. Can you? You're connected on the mic, but I think you need to increase your strength of your mic.
Hello.
Yeah, good. We can hear you now.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Verma, and I'm glad to be here and represent Longi, and I see a lot of friends here. And Alvin, I think we have talked many times, but never seen each other, right?
That's correct. Finally, we met.
Yeah, finally we met. and it's a good opportunity that we can meet here. And regarding the questions from Mr. Verma, I would like to say something because actually I just joined Longi recently, and regarding the capacity, expansion, 2020 is a very important year for Longi, and as we are now celebrating our 20th of anniversary since our foundation in the year of 2000. Since the beginning, we were focusing on providing the market with a reliable, high quality, high efficiency PV module manufacturer. And we have a vision to be the most reliable and the largest PV module manufacturer worldwide. And we are glad to announce today, we had exceeded the 20 gigawatt PV module shipment in 2020, and we are the first solar manufacturer to achieve this record in 1 year. And we are happy to be #1 in terms of shipment. In addition to be #1 in capacity during the whole year of 2020. It is worth mentioning that Longi is not only a PV manufacturer ranked as AAA based on the PV module tech bankability ranking, and has the highest Altman Z score among all the other PV manufacturers, and which reflects the reliability and also the bankability of Longi Solar. Also, please allow me to thank our customers and strategic partners such as Power and Sun. Without them, we won't be able to achieve this milestone. So thank you, Mr. Verma.
Thanks, Sam. Our contribution might be in 0.00001. So, anyways, thanks for addressing this. Still, the point is left that in a year, 4 times increase in the capacity. This needs and this calls a lot of courage. So when entire world was struggling and fighting it with the COVID, you are building the capacity at the plant.
Yes.
So do you see that a 2021 the sales and the shipments will be also in the same lines or marginal increase?
Yeah, in 2021, the shipment will be increased because the capacity also will expand in the new year. So the shipment, we see a large expansion in the new year next year.
Okay. I'll go to Mr. Bajaj now. So Bajaj, as I said, cables are a very important component in the entire solar projects. But to my limited understanding, I might be wrong, but the due importance has not yet been given. I think it is required to have a platform where you can teach, or you can provide the information that using the wrong cable, and in terms of sizing, in terms of quality. So what exactly are the plans of Apar in making the market more actually knowledgeable as far as the cables are concerned?
Thank you, Mr. Verma. I think very interesting question you have raised. When you think about solar, what comes to your mind is what is visible to you easily, which is the solar panel or the inverter and combiner box. And what else? Some of these items, solar cell, and but the cable is a very silent kind of operator. Without cable you cannot work. So you have different type of solars. I think Jignesh in his presentation was saying you need some very specialized cables which are required to connect the solar panel to panel. Now, if the panel life is 25 years or more, the connecting cable also needs to have a life which is more than 25 years, and therefore the certifications are very, very important. In the initial days, people were just using any PVC or XLP cable, but later on, when the questions were raised about bankability, then this question came up that you have to have a TUV certification or the EN certification or now IEC certification. And for the US market, perhaps UL certification. I am happy to announce that Apar has all these certifications. That means we can give you a cable which is having either TUV or EN or IEC or UL. And in fact, we are just trying to work out whether we can give you triple rated solar cable which complies with TUV, EN, and IC, all the three. And because UL is a little different construction, so cannot be fully combined. But we are trying to explore whether we can offer you one cable with 3 certifications. Then you have cables which are going to the maybe combiner boxes or something. Earlier they were using all this TUV approved cable, but I think there seemed to be a lot of cost pressure, and therefore people have switched over to XLP insulated PVC cable, PVC sheathed cables for that application. And then from combiner box to inverter is primarily DC cable, but again XLP and PVC armored or unarmored depending on the customer selection. And thereafter you have from inverter to transformer and transformer to the grid, those are XLP power cables. So there are different varieties of cables. I am happy to say that Apar is having the entire range of these cables available, starting from the PV connection cable till connection to the grid, including fiber optic cable also required for the SCADA or RS485 cable required for the SCADA. That means Apar has a product range offering of the entire chain. Whatever type of cables which are used in solar project are available from Apar. Then Mr. Doshi also mentioned that we are also venturing into harness. So we have supplied, I will not say very major, but there about 70,000-80,000 connectors were connected and supplied 2, 3, 4 projects. So which is a reasonable size execution. So we are now a little confident that we can offer even the harness to the customer also. I will take another 2 minutes to just to highlight. See what is happening in the Middle East in particular, that you have a ambient temperature during the summer which is going to 50 plus, maybe 55 in some places. That is the kind of thing. And you have a XLP cable which is being used, which has a standard rating base as at 40 degree. This is the base, and maximum is 90 degree. So you have a total range available. Total, when you pass the current, your cable gets heated. So when your ambient is 50-55, then you have to derate the cable significantly. Maybe 30% derating applies in Middle East. So we also have developed a range of cable which is suitable to work maximum up to 105 degree C or even 120 degree C also is possible. So by doing so, you do not have to derate the cable and maybe, suppose you have selected 240, so you can use 240. And otherwise, because of derating, you have to switch over to 300. So I think this is an option which the cable designer can actually put in his calculation, that suppose he has a 105 degree or 120 degree cable available, would it help him reduce the size of the cable? Because cable, as you said, is a 5% cost. And now the kind of copper and aluminum, the way they are going up, I think there is a need to conserve the cost. I think these are some of the options which are available, which Middle East people in particular can make use of to reduce their cost. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Bajaj. Very nice explanation. Mr. Alvin.
Yes.
Coming to you now. I think very simple question. 2020. We have gone through the gone through the presentation of Lucas. We know the plan now, what is coming for 2021. Can you just quickly explain what actually happened in 2020? And I will, once after your explanation, I will tell you why I have asked this question to you.
Okay, so in 2020, if we talk about Sungrow, as you know, it's a dedicated more than 23 years, which especially in this the solar inverter industry. In 2020, we have a big achievement in this MENA region. We almost captured all the big utility projects here in this MENA, like the Diva 900 megawatts, the Qatar 800 megawatts, and the Oman 500 megawatts, and a 100 megawatt revamping project in Egypt. Okay, so Diva is using our central solutions, and Qatar and Oman are using our string solutions. So which means Sungrow Funding bring our advanced inverter technology in this industry to help all the investors on the EPCs to have the best CapEx and OpEx for their project. And this is for the utility. And as well as in the distribution business, like we work with Verma, Mr. Verma, we call Sing Island Residential. I think most projects are using our inverters to make the designs, and we always bring, like Lucas just mentioned, we always bring the most advanced technology products, like the 6 series, the IT series, as well. We have a BS energy storage solutions. It's kind of a one-stop solution providers that's in this renewable industry.
The reason for asking this question was quite obvious. I think probably the only one supplier in 1 year in one region who takes more than 80% of utility projects, or I think maybe 90% of utility projects.
Yeah.
And in terms of a value, in terms of the overall, the value, it is 2.4 or 2.3 gigawatt.
It's around more than 2.5 gigawatts in 2020.
Gigawatt.
Yeah.
You're giving a tough time to your competitors, huh?
Yeah, but we will be more tough one for us in 2021 because we have a bigger target or more larger targets in 2021.
So but there is a limitation. You can go only up to 100. You cannot achieve 101%.
That's correct. Fighting for the market is very, I think, is not so difficult. But the most difficult thing is just to try to keep as the top leader in this market.
Yeah, good. One general question to all three of you who would, or all of them one by one can reply. What is the increment of growth, or what is the increment of increase in a potential you see it in 2021 in the Middle East region over 2020?
I will take the call first.
Yes.
Let me also tell you that this particular year, because of pandemic, I think the situation was not as aggressive as it should have been. So there is a lot of pent-up demand. For example, in India, if we were doing 10 gigawatt installation, maybe in the current 2020 we did only 6.5 or 6, something like that. In India itself, there is a 22 gigawatt demand which is pent up. I am sure at least 15 gigawatt should get installed in India. Now coming to your Middle East side, now very intelligently the Middle East country chiefs, I think they are working aggressively to reduce the dependence on oil. So not only 2021, I am very bullish that in the Middle East, for the next 4 or 5 years, you will have a significantly increasing demand, much more than what you have seen in 2020, because 2020 was not so great. But I think 21 onward, you can depend on the huge market opening up in the Middle East.
Mr. Ryan, you would like to say?
Yeah, I think for 2020, because of a lot of reasons, and the main is because of coronavirus, the market is not that opening. So I think for next year, as you know, the situation of coronavirus is more clear, and I think the potential in the Middle East market, for Longi, is not always the one who entered the Middle Eastern market, but we look at the Middle East and Africa region as the potential region, and that's the reason why we have recently established the the entity for Longi in Dubai with our offices in DMCC. Also in this year, we have established a new dedicated team for the MEA region. I'm personally leading this team, and we are building an extraordinary strong team to cover the full region. So that is also all based on the market changing. I think for next year we are very positive, and also we also want to build the strategic partnership with different developers, CPCs, and distributors who will be our partners in success. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Alvin, you would like to add?
Yes, for me, I'm also very optimistic for the 2021. No matter because the pandemic situation maybe get better compared with this year. We see in the CNI segments this year because of the COVID-19, it delays most projects a lot. I think most projects will postpone to 2021. And as well as you can see, there's a lot of tenders for the utility projects. Now, no matter the Oman 1 gigawatt in the future, and in Saudi, just Rebel 2, Rebel 3, or even Rebel 4 will coming soon. And we see that's why right now, until now, right, we have more than 20 people dedicated in Sungrow staff, Sungrow office service for these MENA regions, including the sales and service, and we established a service center here in Dubai. But like Verma, for the distribution business, service, you have backup for us, and you have your own ability to cover service for the product you sold. So we are happy for this kind of cooperation mode.
May I ask a question to Rayan?
Yeah.
Mr. Rayan, how do you see, the solar panel to solar panel connection by copper cable, tinned copper cable? Do you see a possibility that aluminum flexible cable is used in that place to reduce the cost?
Sorry, I didn't get you. You mean the connection between the?
Yeah. For one panel to the other panel, you are connecting by a DC string cable.
Yeah.
4 square mm or 6 square mm.
Yeah.
Is it possible? Do you foresee the opportunity to use flexible aluminum cable to connect the two panels?
Aluminum cable.
Yeah, because the copper is so high.
Yeah. I see. I think you guys are the professional ones who are thinking about this cost reduction. I think you all these things. Although I'm not professional ones in the technical side, I don't know, but for the not only panels but also the system material, I think the trend is the cost reduction. That's the major trend. So maybe this will be happen, but I'm not the technical guy. But I see in this way or in that way, different ways. Different people, all the smart people, technical guy, they will think about different way to reduce the cost of the system. So that's the direction. That's our direction, I think. Yeah. Thank you.
I think Mr. Bajaj, you have given an excellent idea for the research team to work on it, because 1.4 meter cable on positive side, 1.4 meter cable on negative side, so 2.8 meter cable per panel. Multiply, you can find it out, the result of your question.
Yeah,
very valid.
For smaller projects, it is 20 kilometer per megawatt.
Yes, 20-25 kilometers per megawatt is a rooftop, especially for the string inverters, where each string has to be taken into the inverters. Anyway, so this is, I think, a good question. Probably Mr. Kevin has taken a note of it. He has worked in the technical side, so for sure this is a question for which the answer may come a little later. I think we will wind up this session with the last question. As I said, I mean, in a solar project, the cost and the technology or the quality is being driven by the manufacturers mainly, because they are the technology drivers in the industry. The speed of solarization is also a very important subject, because the best of technologies you have, the best of products you have, but your speed of solarization is slow. What is supposed to happen in 6 months or supposed to happen in 3 months takes 9 months or takes 1 year. As a manufacturer, what would be your take, or what would you like to suggest to the industry? Again, this is a general question open for all three. Anyone would like to pick up and answer first and the later?
Maybe I will. I think Jignesh in his presentation showed the string cable, which is currently what people are using is a black with a red stripe for the positive and the negative. Now you saw in the presentation that figure 8, that means the two cables are connected together and you can simply slice it like this. So that is one, it will reduce the cost of installation, make it faster. Otherwise you have to pull one cable and the other cable and then put in conduit or whatever you have to do way forward. So this is one way of doing it. Other interesting thing which I saw in Australia, where they have a very high cost of labor. So what they are buying is say single core 300 or single core 240. They are buying as a twisted cable. So from the drum, when you pull one cable, you pull positive, negative together. Otherwise, you have to install one positive drum, one negative drum, and pull both of them. So here it is already pre-twisted. Third, of course, is the idea of harness, which can help you faster implementation. So these are some of the thoughts which are coming for installation side.
Mr. Ryan, you would like to say something?
Yeah. So for Longi, I think the most important thing is that we will provide our customer with the very high efficiency and high quality products. And for Longi now, the mainstream products this year we promote is HAMR 4, and for next year HAMR 5 is already on the market. So I think now the best solution from Longi that is is the high quality, high efficiency products. So that's what we are dedicated to. That what we are pursuing. So so that's the key point we want to promote. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry for this technical glitch. Is that I'm audible?
You have another
There
picture.
are two Vermas visible.
Okay, so talking about the saving cost, the installation cost for the inverter side, as you know, for Sungrow, regarding our central solutions, we integrate MV station together with our central inverter in a 140-foot skid. It's kind of a continuous solution. It's just a plug and play. That helps a lot, no matter the size of the foundations, but also the installation cost. As Lucas explained, for our string inverters for the CX series, we have a much smaller and lighter inverters is coming soon. So I think for this part, it can save a lot of your installation work or cost your time and on site, and save your kind of EPC's work.
Okay. Yeah, I missed your point, Mr. Ryan. If you have answered, or you would like to answer this also?
Sorry. So I think just I already.
Okay. Fine. So I think we are little ahead of time now. We should wind it up. I think with a thanks to the panelists for sparing their time. Thanks to the attendees, because during this pandemic time, there are many webinars are happening, and just now I saw there are more than 300 registrations which has taken place, for this thing for the attendees. So which is a very large number. Thanks to the attendees for taking a benefit and sparing their time from their busy schedules. Thanks to the people who were working behind this webinar, Mr. Fahad Julian from our office making this happen. Some very good takes, from this. If I have to summarize this, first one is 2021. There are some new subjects which are coming up. Mr. Kevin touched upon them very well. How we can optimize. Sungrow come up with the solutions for 2021 with the new situations, new market, how things are going to be from a Sungrow side. Apar taking up a point that how quickly and how nicely they can service, and then they can replace the costly solution to the cost-effective solutions. I think the webinar was useful. As far as there was some request coming up for the presentations, they will be available on our website. If someone has any questions, they can write it to us. We're sorry we don't have now time to take up our questions further. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Verma ji.